What's up, beautiful people, and welcome back to our comic book review video where I say words about a comic I read and you, the magically delicious, listen. It is I, your crazy Nicolas Cage, your steward of Gondor, your genius, billionaire playboy, basic YouTuber philanthropist, SuperCliff. And would you guys be ever so kindly as to smash that like and subscribe button, because every little bit helps in this crazy YouTube world. And today, folks, the time has come for all of us to taste fear. Because today, folks, we are covering Batman, Fear State Alpha, issue number 1, written by James Tynion IV, with the art drawn by Riccardo Federici. And without further ado, let's get freaky. Hey, that rhymed. Alrighty, folks. So our story begins in Arkham Asylum, many months prior to Fear State and weeks before A-Day, and we pick up with Simon Saint, meeting with Dr. Crane, aka Scarecrow, for the very first time. And Simon Saint, he's been fascinated with Crane for quite some time now, fascinated with his work. And while Simon is trying to appeal to Crane, Crane is pretty quick to pick up on Simon's intentions. Because remember, folks, Scarecrow, he's phenomenal at profiling people. It's one of his many skills. Therefore, he knows Simon wants something from him. And so, with getting straight to the point, Simon Saint mentions that there's been a lot of talk in Silicon Valley regarding to a series of papers Crane wrote back in graduate school. Papers about societal fears, the Fear State theory. And essentially, it's a theory which outlines a way to help society to evolve by delivering a tremendous shock into it. But Crane, he's somewhat hesitant on using this theory because he isn't sure if anyone will be able to control as to what transpires. However, if they were to go through with it, if they were to undergo this theory, they would need a city that has experienced trauma for several years. A city that has reached rock bottom at least a number of times. But of course, the city that comes to mind is Gotham. And with the city just coming out of Joker War, Gotham is in its prime. Yet despite the what if and the possible outcome that may follow, Simon Saint is committed. He is committed towards making Gotham a better place, a safer place, a prime utopia. Therefore, he is willing to do whatever it takes. Billionaire Simon Saint is willing to invest in Crane, invest in Fear State. Afterwards, we pick up in the present-day Arkham Asylum, with Scarecrow initiating his final steps of unleashing Fear State, with Batman tied up to a chair, merely to watch the fear unfold at the hands of the Scarecrow. And while Scarecrow is going on about how he's going to change Gotham for the better, off in the corner we see a bunch of TVs playing, featuring several news outlets whom are covering the situation that's happening in Gotham. But the important thing to take away from this is the fear that is spreading. The media are stirring things up, with the Unsanity Collective getting arrested by the Peacekeepers, and Peacekeeper number 1, aka Sean Mahoney, being praised as a hero, along with Scarecrow this and Scarecrow that. There is so much happening at the moment, and so the people are basically freaking out. And without having to use a single dose of fear toxin, Crane's plan is making progress. Fear State is underway, shit is about to hit the fan, and soon we're about to hit a police state. We're about to hit DC's future state. Afterwards, we pick up in the Magistrate's main command base, which is floating above Gotham, and inside we see Simon Saint freaking out because with Sean Mahoney going through Crane's Fear State, as we saw in Batman issue 111, he's currently MIA. But more importantly, it makes him a huge liability because if by chance Sean decides to start killing people, then his actions will end up destroying the Magistrate. They'll end up losing all their credibility. However, because he negotiated a deal with Mayor Nakano, Simon Saint now possesses the ability to enact certain actions, certain methods that he nor Batman could have done prior, such as being able to black out certain parts of the city in order to find Peacekeeper number 1. And so while Simon Saint and his people are busy searching for Peacekeeper 1, the majority of the Magistrate forces are going to converge on Alleytown, because if they're able to take out Alleytown, a section of Gotham that basically represents everything bad about the city, that being crime, drugs, and homeless, if they're able to destroy Alleytown, then this will be seen as a major victory, a beacon of hope for the people of Gotham. And from there, they'll converge on Scarecrow. Meanwhile, we switch scenes over to the GCPD, where Commissioner Montoya is pissed off because the GCPD is basically being replaced by the magistrate, and they're just taking over, essentially benching the police officers. And with parts of the city getting blacked out, no one knows what's going on. Therefore, Montoya and all the legitimate policemen and women, they're feeling completely useless. They're feeling helpless. Afterwards, within the clock tower, we pick up with Barbara Gordon, Cassandra Cain, and Stephanie Brown. And here Barbara is trying her damnness keep up with all the crazy stuff that's happening in Gotham. The media spreading fear, the magistrate taking over, parts of the city getting blacked out, along with news saying that Batman is dead. Just a lot is happening right now, and it's to the point where there's just so much happening, Barbara can't handle it all by herself. Thus, she begins to activate an SOS to every single member of the Bat family. She's calling in reinforcements, while sending out a message letting people know that this fear state is going to get fixed, and the people of Gotham don't need the magistrate, for they are not the answer. And so once everything is connected and powered up, Barbara is ready for her words to be featured on every single radio, TV screen, loudspeaker, in order for all of Gotham to hear. Therefore, Barbara begins to deliver her speech. But the only downside is that it's not Barbara who's talking. Someone else has hacked in. And the speech that is given is not one of hope, nor of that of enduring to reach a better outcome, but rather a speech about misery, hopelessness, and fear. And that the police, the magistrate, and the vigilantes, they are all the bad guys. There is no hope, you're all going to die, and you all suck. And so upon listening to this, Barbara is completely shocked. Shocked that someone out there is matching her skills, taking the position as the anti-Oracle. Afterwards, we are taken down into Eden, beneath Gotham City, a place where Poison Ivy has been living. And here we have Gardner, Harley Quinn, Ghostmaker, Miracle Marley, and the remaining members of the Unsanity Collective arriving within Eden as a means to seek out shelter from the war that's transpiring from above the surface. Now, unfortunately, the only problem is that Poison Ivy is no longer herself. Her personality has been split into two, and the personality who's ruling Eden is Queen Ivy. And this personality holds a lot of anger and hatred towards anything non-plant based. So basically, upon the group's approach, Queen Ivy wraps them up via her vines, and she threatens to use them as fertilizer to feed her plants. But in an attempt to see if any part of Ivy still remains intact, Harley Quinn rushes forward and gives Ivy a hug, trying to help Ivy remember her and Harley. And alas, she remembers. And once Queen Ivy returns to tend back to her plants, Harley and Gardner begin talking, with Harley mentioning that she wants to find the missing piece to find the other side of Ivy, so that she can have the original Poison Ivy back. But luckily, the two of them won't have to go far to do so, because as we pan over to Alleytown, we see Catwoman, who's with the other part of Poison Ivy, and they're about to have trouble, because outside of Catwoman's holdup, the forces of the Magistrate pull up, because they are here to invade Alleytown. And while the people of Alleytown prepare for battle, we pick back up with Scarecrow and Batman. And fortunately, Batman was able to break free from his containment, and he launches himself against Scarecrow, hoping to stop Fear State from happening. But unfortunately, it's too late, because Fear State has already begun. And that, folks, was Batman Fear State Alpha, issue number 1. And like popping a bottle of champagne, James Tynion IV initiates his opening for what seemingly is his last big undertaking for the character of Batman, before he goes to Substack. Now, what I liked about this issue was its structure, highlighting all the various Gotham fronts that will be featured across all of the Batman books, along with providing us with some backstory with regards to Simon Saint and Crane's relationship, as to how the two villains met and why exactly did Saint decide to work with the Scarecrow towards building a better Gotham. And the reason being was due to Jonathan Crane's past, back when he was considered a legitimate professor, and his theories based off the concept of fear and how fear can be used to help save a city. It was definitely an interesting take on the character, and because of his ideology, because of Scarecrow's ideology, it helps us to see precisely why Scarecrow is the main antagonist of this event, and why he's doing the things that he's doing. Also, I love that Scarecrow is the book's main villain. I've always considered Scarecrow to be one of Batman's top tier prominent villains, along with being Batman's most relatable villain, so it's nice seeing that he's being treated as such. Unfortunately, a major downside to this book was Riccardo Federici's artwork. Now, by and large, Federici is a master artist. However, the man's style for this book I don't think aligns efficiently with the book's atmosphere, synergy base-wise. And maybe if this were more of a detective story, then perhaps Federici's sketch composition would be much more effective. But this book is pretty big and quite explosive. And so with it setting up a big Batman event, I don't know, I couldn't vibe with the art style. And lastly, the book felt a lot like Joker War 2.0. Similar to the Joker War, Batman is taken captive by the main villain, whilst outside, mayhem and terror are in motion. So basically, this felt a lot like Joker War, but with a paint job. The paint being Fear State. But yeah, overall Batman Fear State, Alpha Issue 1, does a great job in fleshing out the villain's motives, while setting up the playing field for this epic Batman-centric event. Hopefully the Omega issue has a more effective art presence, and I'm anticipating that Fear State will shake things up with its story structure, so that it doesn't feel like Joker War 2.0. Batman Fear State Alpha, issue number 1, gets a 7 out of 10.